Hey, what's up, y'all? Hope you guys are having a good one. So, the Sandbox tuning preview for Ashen Iron is out, and it is not good, in my opinion. We've been saying that a lot over the past couple years. Why does this keep happening? I don't know, which is why today, instead of bitching about why Bungie are making all these decisions, I'd rather try and take the emotion out of it and look at it from a biased perspective, right? It's my perspective, but also trying to look at the game as a whole, and what my kind of philosophy on why I think these changes are bad, right? How can I like to think that the Bungie devs care about the game, but recently the performance has been terrible, and something needs to change. And best way to change is to just tell them what I think they're doing wrong. So that's what we're going to do in this video. Feel free to leave your opinions down below, because the reality is these are my opinions. You're probably going to disagree with at least some of what I say, and that's okay. Like, the reality is we all have different expectations of what we want this game to be. So feel free to, if you disagree with me on something, let me know, right? I'm glad to hear it, right? I think it's important to kind of get a consensus on what people want, at least a consensus on the audience that watched me. So I'm gonna stop rambling. Let's get into it. So I'll be honest. My initial reaction to this was a lot of anger. I was really pissed when I saw this because, as you see on screen, that is how I figured out about it. So yeah, I've been asking for grenade launchers to get a buff for a long time, and that they should get 2 ammo to make them compete, and snipers get them. I couldn't believe it, right? And I know there's going to be people who watch the first minute of the video and say, "Oh, the sniper buff's good." Like, I get it. Snipers were bad, and they needed help, but giving them 2 special ammo was not a good idea, right? That's going to make them way too broken. So I'm not saying snipers didn't need help, right? I know a lot of you guys like to snipe out there. I like to snipe too, right? Calm down, right? But giving it 2 ammo is not the solution, right? But when I saw that, I just started looking at the whole thing, and I'm like, how does this keep happening? How does it somehow, like, the vision keep getting further and further away? Because there were points in the past couple of years where, like, I'd read the twabs and I'd be like, you know what? I disagree with that change, but I kind of see like where you're going with it, right? It's like, oh, maybe the nerf to the cryo slide, for example. It's like, I don't really see. I think it's a cool movement aspect for high skill play. I don't know why they changed it, right? To give one example, but these updates recently are just so far away from my expectations. So yeah, um, let's just go through this, because the reality is, um, I need to provide examples, because philosophy wise, that's where we're finding a really big gap right now. So the first thing I see here is the weapon hipfire reticle stuff. You've got deterministic recoil. Um, all this stuff shows that Bungie actually cares. Like, if they didn't care about the game, they wouldn't be going into depth on these things, trying to improve the experience of the gunplay in this game. I think it's it's one of those things where, like, all of this stuff is going to change things up, and they're trying to make the game better. And I feel like this is where Bungie actually does their really good work on stuff like this. Like, they normally get it right on the how a gun's supposed to feel and how this is supposed to act and whatnot. Like, actually autonomy over your character feels really good. And these all look like changes that are going to improve that. So I think it's great. But the problem is, you can do all the small things right, but the big updates that are going to cause the biggest player quitting, you don't do anything about, right? So all these small things, if you can get the balancing stuff right, then people are going to love your game, because it is a good game at its core. It's just completely unbalanced, right? And the first example of that is the heavy burst sidearms, right? So Forgiveness, the new Trials one, really, really powerful, especially powerful on controller, but just as well on mouse and keyboard. You can shred people with it, right? It's very frustrating to play against because it's a stat monster, right? It has barely any recoil. So Bungie looks at it and they're like, okay, we think that this gun is an outlier, which I agree. The stat package is a problem, right? But they reduce the range stat. And for those of you guys who don't know, range on sidearms is not a significant stat. Like, you really want handling, you want stability, you want rate of fire, like, kind of guns that are perks that make your gun feel good. on sidearms. At least that's what my controller friends have told me and what I've seen from playing trials, right? Reducing the range step by 15 is like a 1 meter problem, a 1 meter reduction. And I wouldn't say that the range on forgiveness was the problem. I feel like more the gun forgiveness is too forgiving. You see what I did there, right? It's too easy to use. There's not enough flinch. It's easy to kind of, catch someone with their pants down and punish them really easy. High body shot damage into a few headshots, and you're going to melt someone, right? So this is another example of a balance change where you look at a weapon, in my opinion, from the way that I look at the game, and you recognize it's a problem, but you don't tweak the gun in a way that addresses the problem of what the people are playing against, right? It's the same thing with 120 hand cannons. In my opinion, I think the best way last season to nerf 120 hand cannons was to lower the recoil direction, because every single high, fire rate revolver type hand cannon, which should be, that kind of high damage deagle, kind of high skill, high damage if you hit your shots, but you have, it's not as easy to aim. I wish they would have just done that, but they kept working with range. They kept working with the damage numbers of the 2 head 1 body. I feel like there's too many times in this game where they don't recognize what the correct balance change to make the gun better to play with and to deal with in the game. I feel like they just don't get it. And this is another example of that, right? This isn't going to do anything. So, especially you could say maybe it would do something against someone who, like, if you are using the gun, you'll notice, hey, maybe, my gun's like hitting me from a little less range, right? Or like, I'm not getting as much range. I might, if I'm using the weapon, I might feel a little bit of the nerf. But the problem is getting killed by the weapon. If a 15 range stat, a 1 meter difference isn't going to feel any different than what it is now. So playing against it, which is the annoying part, like, we all love to use OP guns, but we all hate to play against OP guns because it's not fun to play against, right? So the reason you nerf something is to make it less frustrating to play against. But the problem is this nerf is going to make it slightly less fun to use because it's going to be worse. But it's also probably not even going to be noticeable for the people who have been dying to it. They're still going to die to it. They're still going to have someone beam them all headshots even though you're hitting perfect strafes because the thing has 100 stability, right? It doesn't fix the actual problem. So this is a small change, and I want to go into the stuff more, but that is the kind of core issue that I have with Bungie's balancing, is it feels like they don't make the right decision. Like, they recognize it's a problem, but they don't balance it in the correct way. And one more thing I wanted to add, a big problem with this 2-burst sidearm is tap the trigger, right? So they don't look at the gun and be like, oh, tap the trigger is too powerful on these burst sidearms, we're going to slightly nerf this perk, right? There's multiple ways to look at balancing this archetype. It's pretty clear, in my opinion, at least in a lot of the players, that everyone is using the exact same role, the same things on it. It's pretty clear that there are different ways to fix it, and they somehow find a way to not fix it at all, right? And that is just the most frustrating thing to me, because it feels like they just don't get it, right? It feels like, and I don't want to act like, this big competitive player, but, I played a lot of Counter-Strike throughout my years. I played 10 years of Counter-Strike. I hit face level 10. I know what it is to play competitive games. I watched Valorant quite a bit back in the day. I've seen these hero shooters, gunplay balances, and I like to think that a lot of my opinions are shared by the community. So it's really frustrating to see things like this, because to me it looks like incompetence, and I don't want to believe that. But if it keeps happening over and over and over again, that's really the only thing I can call it, right? So that's enough on the heavy burst sidearms. Let's look at the spread shot hand cannons. Oh boy, here we go. The spread shot hand cannons. So, yeah, they say, while it's proven to be a fun new tool, they're a little too easy to use outside their intended engagement windows. And they're trying to make a smoother PvP experience. Okay, fantastic, right? I would disagree personally. I don't think they're a little bit too easy to use. I think they're way too easy to use outside of their intended engagement windows. And even in their intended engagement windows, they are too easy to use and offer too much value. That's my perspective from playing against it for a bunch of weekends, right? So let's see what they did. They add, combatant stuff, cool. I like it when they do this. I'll give them credit on this because I do understand that the PvP and PvE balance of this game is really important, right? You want to make sure that PvP isn't bringing the PvE gameplay down, right? That's something that was a thing in the past, and a lot of people complained. This game, the reality is a mostly PvE game with PvP on the side, right? Which is why when I look at the ability spam prismatic meta, I can kind of forgive some of the decision making, right? Because the PvE experience was really fun, and this is a PvE game with PvP in it. I understand that, right? Some of this stuff is not really the case. And let's keep going to the spread shot because I'm getting distracted. But they added a 0.1 second delay after firing before you can melee, which is nice. I'm glad that they've recognized that the hand cannon shotty into the melee was a problem because it was really frustrating. It was kind of just a get out of jail free card. You could combo your melee with Radiant on Hunter, Knockout with Titan on Warlock. You could get, like there were so many melee builds are pretty powerful in the game, and the combo of this plus the melee, and then you just get a buff that you can go attack everyone else on the other team. Yeah, it was a bit of a problem, but I don't know how much this is going to change things. I think the problem's still going to occur. This is one of those where this looks like a clever solution, but the track record doesn't fill me with optimism, but I hope it makes a difference in making that less frustrating. And then they talk about the increased pellet spread angle by 5%. Once again, this to me doesn't look like a change at all, right? This looks like the problem for me with the hand cannon shotties was never that they mapped me, right? That the 20-meter map or any, like that was never the problem. It was just that in that kind of awkward where like they need to reload, you need to reload, and no one really has like abilities up, and you're kind of like 10 meters away from each other, and you're looking at each other, and you're like, oh shit, like what's gonna happen here? Like those kind of chaotic moments that make Destiny interesting. It was just a get out of jail free card. Like they can always just pull that out, boom, punch, and then you're dead, right? It feels like just having one of those hand cannons on, it was just a get out of jail free card in a lot of those instances. And maybe that's something that I personally notice more because I play more aggressive. I like to kind of play in that 10 to 20 yard kind of range. But even talking to my friends, I think a lot of them would share my opinion on this, that it just feels like you get too much value in too many situations, and increasing the pellet spread by 5% is not going to change anything. You want to know what will change something? Nuking the mod. I can't remember what it's called, but there is a mod, one of the season ones, that I think, I looked up on LightGG and all these other websites. I couldn't find it specifically, but it gives you like 50 stability or 50 handling just by putting the mod on, and it makes the gun into a laser, right? It's like perfect snappy handling everywhere, and that's when it's a really big problem. So even as just a stopgap, Bungie could have said, like they didn't have to do any of this. They could have probably had a better impact on the game by just going in and saying, hey, we're disabling this mod on the Aureus and the other one. I can't remember what it's called. But the hand cannon shotty frame, we're disabling this mod because it's causing a problem in PvP. We're sorry for the PvE guys, but we need to fix this. It's a big problem, right? I think that change, which is so simple to me and a lot of other people I talk to, right, would have made a much better experience. And it could have been done a couple days after it came out as well. You just disable this mod and it makes the experience way better. But no, we suffer for a month and a half in a shitty meta, and then we get a half-assed change like this that doesn't fix the problem. And at the same time, as we're going to go on, Bungie like to create new problems in the sandbox, right? So that's kind of what's frustrating about hand cannon shotties. I think they dropped the ball on this. This isn't really going to change anything about their experience. I hope that the firing delay makes a big difference on that, because I think if they could fix that part, then it would make a big difference. But I don't know if a 0.1 second delay is really going to change much. We'll see. But yeah, I do not agree at all with these spread shot hand cannon changes, and I don't think they're going to move the needle really much at all. All right, now we get to the fun part, and this is the part that some of you guys might disagree with me on, but hear me out. I want to try and make this case because in my mind, I think I rationalize it well, but I know some people are going to disagree. So, snipers, right? Snipers have been a problem in this game for a long time because they are the highest skill and the highest reward in the game. If you are playing against a good sniper and the meta is in their favor, like snipers are good and whatnot compared to the rest of the meta, sniper players are unstoppable to play against. I've played some unbelievable controller demons, right? And that's kind of another thing that pisses me off as a mouse and keyboard player is I don't want to, old me probably would have said, "Oh, there's no skill in controller sniping," but that's not true because there's a lot of people who use controller, there's a lot of people who snipe, and there's only a select few players who can really play at that unstoppable level, right? But it doesn't change the fact that snipers are super oppressive, and they are heavily influenced by the frame rate of your monitor, which on PC makes it a big problem, right? Maybe not as much on console, but all these streamers playing with cracked out PCs because their aim assist is this is at least how it used to work, and I haven't had anyone told me that they changed it. But aim assist increases the amount of, or sorry, your frame rate increases the amount of aim assist you have. So if I'm playing, I play on a 240 hertz monitor, I get more aim assist than you if you're playing on console with 120 FPS. That's, to my understanding, how it still works. That's how it used to work. I've been playing this game a long time, but yeah, that's what causes issues with sniping, I think, because you have to balance it in a way where you want to make sniping fun and enjoyable for the average player to pick up, because sniping's fun, right? We all in Destiny 1 and we all in Destiny 2 as well, like probably all of us have picked up a sniper and just ran around and tried to have fun with it. But at the same time, we need to make sure that the controller demons don't just win the game for you like super easily, right? And that's why snipers are a tough thing. And this change, increasing ammo brick from 1 to 2, is probably one of the dumbest things I could think of possible. Yeah, it's it's gonna be bad, in my opinion. Like the slug shoddy meta, everyone just run at you with a slug. Now it's gonna be everyone sitting in the back with a snipe. Especially we're gonna be seeing it because I think scout rifles are still really strong in the meta, even though they aren't used a lot. Bungie's gonna come out, for like a month. They're gonna come out with Widow's Court, Vostok, Eternity, Disjunction, Cathedral Dusk. Like we're gonna get a month where it's just long range maps, and everyone's gonna be sitting back with a snipe and a scout, and the game's gonna slow down, and it's gonna be no one play. Like snipers are a scary prospect for the game. And it's tough because I understand there's some of you guys watching this who are sniper mains, and you're like, well, why am I being punished for being a good player, right? If I'm a good player, sniper is the highest skill archetype in the game, allegedly. I personally disagree with that, but this is supposed to be a high skill, high reward. I should be able to dominate a lobby, right? And this is where a little bit of my PC mouse and keyboard elitism comes in. This is my kind of, just how I am. So a lot of you guys who play controller are going to disagree with this, but I don't think controller sniping is that, it's kind of abusing aim assist, and getting high frame rates to get more aim assist and stuff. So it's like, it just feels kind of cheesy to me. It's like, I kind of have to like rely on my movement and decision making and stuff, and they kind of just get a free click button that gets a lot of aim assist, and I don't know. They need to find a way to make it so snipers aren't like that, but also need to make it rewarding and fun. And the problem is, nowadays with snipes, if you're shooting someone, pretty much what they did with the flinch stuff, and they're playtesting with it, they say, which I think is what they should have done instead of giving the Crucible ammo from 1 to 2. But this, I mean, it's a tough one, but I think the snipers, they should have just done the flinch playtest. They shouldn't be doing the ammo brick. Ammo brick is just going to make it so special is flooding the game again, which I don't have a problem with. And this is another thing I want to talk about, kind of just the special ammo system. And Bungie have kind of backed themselves into a corner because a lot of you guys who are fairly new to the game won't remember that like 3 years ago, you used to get 3 ammo per brick every time you killed someone with a special weapon. Like I'd run around quick play games with 27 shots of ignition code, and just slide, shoot, slide, shoot, slide, shoot. That was a problem, right? Let's be honest. Then they brought it down to 2 ammo per brick because they said everyone was complaining about special. Fine, right? And 2 played a lot better. And then they brought it down to 1. And then they came out with, what was it, Checkmate, which like limited it even more. And like we've kind of purged special ammo from the game, and we're in a point because the game was created to be based on 3 special ammo. Well, I guess actually the game was created to be no special ammo when it first came out, but you get what I mean. After Forsaken, the game was created to have 3 special ammo. But the problem is when you nerf the special all the way down, you get into this point where you look at snipers. With 1 ammo, they're too weak. But if you give them 2 ammo, they're way too strong. Same thing with grenade launchers, right? You know, I personally disagree. I think 2 ammo with a grenade launcher wouldn't be that big of a problem. As you see with glaives, it's not really breaking the game, even though I think glaives are pretty strong. But giving it 2 ammo, you know, they've kind of just put themselves in this spot where they can't change the variable at all of the special ammo because it just swings too much. They don't have any room to play with. The difference between 1 and 2 is a huge difference, you know, way more of a difference between 2 and 3 or 3 and 4, right? So the special ammo, I really don't know the solution for this because I want there to be special ammo in the game. I think it's good for the game, but I really don't know a system. I'm going to be honest. The special ammo one's tough. If I had to make a decision, it would probably just be we're reverting every single special ammo change. You get 2 ammo per brick every time you pick it up and just go from there. And it wouldn't be perfect. It'd cause problems, but I think it would be better than kind of this disaster of an ammo meter that we have now. Okay, so I know I rambled quite a bit there. There's honestly, you know, the Sturm stuff is scary. Sidearm's already really strong, but whatever. You know, I'm scared about that, but I'm gonna ignore it for now because I don't want to think about it. Graviton Spike, biggest pain point in the entire game. You know, just the most broken hand cannon in the history. Honestly, probably the most broken weapon in the history game, besides, you know, bugs like the crafting and laser tag trials and stuff like that, right? These changes, you know, here's the thing that kind of makes me giggle a little bit, makes me smile, and makes me want to blow my brains out a little bit. We don't want to outright stomp this weapon down in PvP or PV, so we're taking a small swing. You made us wait a month and a half playing against this gun over and over and over and over again. And we're thinking, you know, you come out last week and say, hey, balance changes are coming. And we're like, oh my God, they're going to do something about this hand cannon, right? Like, I get it. Guns should be strong at the start of a season, and then we nerf them, right? You know, because we want people to buy the DLCs, and, you know, we want people to be using new guns and have the. I get that, right? But a month and a half, and now they're saying, oh, we just want to, you know, take a small swing, right? And they don't fix any of the pain points around this gun. Like, yes, the infinite buff to 7 seconds might make a little bit of a difference, but it's still a 150 with very good stats, very easy feel, good hand cannon sight, and it still has the capacity after getting 3 headshots to just 2-tap someone and spawn like a million fucking stasis crystals, right? And the stasis crystals is what I would have liked them to change, because I think that's the biggest pain point, and I know that would affect PvE, but there is no world where this hand cannon will not be OP if it spawns all those stasis crystals, because my teammate getting shot next to me in a well or in a rift or something in trials, just getting shot in the head, he loses half of his health, I get slowed because I'm within 5 meters of him. That part has not changed at all. Once again, we're looking at this thing where you change the gun, but you don't change the experience of dying to it. The person who's actually using the gun themselves is going to notice this nerf, right? Because it's, you know, a pretty significant nerf on kind of the gameplay loop. But the people dying to this gun aren't going to notice the nerf as much. They're still going to get bullshitted by getting slowed in a corridor and getting all your health, you know, half your health taken out, right? So the pain point, once again, which is what I think, if you're nerfing something, the point of the nerf is to make the general player's experience better when playing against it. Because we all like guns when they're OP, but we hate playing against them, right? So this is another change where they nerf the play style, but the effect of the nerf isn't felt by the majority of the player base. And the reality is, we play games for fun, right? And there's all these other issues, like they turned on lobby balancing on accident in trials, and it's like right now it feels like solo queue is just getting fought. Like there's so many issues with that stuff, and this is another one where it's just like, why aren't you making my experience better playing your game? Like I want to play your game. I want to give you money for these DLCs. I want to play and create content and try and make some big plays and stuff, right? So it's just frustrating, right? And that's kind of the whole idea of this video. I don't really understand their decision making on these changes, and I'm gonna sound like a dickhead, but the only thing that I can see is just incompetence. They just don't get it, right? And I'd love to have a conversation with a Bungie dev one day and talk to them about it, because I don't want to think these guys are idiots. I don't want to think that they're delusional and incompetent, right? I've been playing Bungie games since I was a kid, right? I don't want them to be incompetent, but the results and what I keep seeing is just a big issue. So there's more stuff in here, but that's honestly really what I wanted to talk about in this video. They go over some more, like, I'll be honest with you, all of this doesn't matter to me. Like, I haven't even read it, and there's probably some important stuff in here that might change little values, but the fact that they messed up snipers, spread shot hand cannons, sidearms, and where is it? The graviton spike, right? The fact they messed these up, it doesn't really matter what else they do. It's, I don't know. It's just, it sucks, man. And yeah, let me hear your opinions, because I've rambled on along, enough about this. It's really late. I just wanted to get something out for you guys, but I also wanted to take the time and really look at it from a point of constructive criticism rather than just a rant video. I know a rant video might do better on YouTube, but I want to kind of see if people agree with my perspective. If they kind of see the game in that way, or if I'm just crazy. Maybe I don't know what I'm talking about. So if you disagree with anything I said in here, please leave a comment. Give me your perspective, because I don't want to think that I'm super delusional and it's like, oh, I know what's best for the game. Maybe I don't know what's best for the game, but I think having a conversation is a big part of that. So if you enjoyed the video, leave a like. I really don't like having to make these, especially when it's just brain drain, man. I just want some good updates, but yeah, not great to be a Destiny content creator right now, unfortunately. But yeah, hope you guys have a good rest of your day. See you in the next one.